Hello, and welcome everybody to the National Trends in Disability Employment,
or nTIDE,
Lunch and Learn series.
Just a few housekeeping items before we begin.
This webinar is being recorded.
We will post an archive of each webinar each month on our website at www.researchondisability.org/nTIDE.
This site will also provide copies of the presentations, the speakers' bios, full transcripts, and other valuable resources.
As an attendee of this webinar, you are a viewer.
To ask questions of the speakers, click on the Q&A box on your webinar screen and type your questions into the box.
Speakers will review these questions and provide answers during the last section of the webinar.
Some questions may be answered directly in the Q&A box.
If you have any questions following this recording, please contact us at disability.statistics@unh.edu
or toll free at 866-538-9521 for more information.
Thanks for joining us.
Enjoy today's webinar.
Hi, everybody. This is Andrew Houghtonville from the University of New Hampshire's Institute on Disability. Welcome to this month's nTIDE webcast. We're going to follow the same format that we usually do. nTIDE is, as you know, perhaps occurs on the first at noon on the first Friday of every month. That's when the jobs report is released by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. nTIDE is also a joint effort with the University of Hampshire, Kessler Foundation, and the Association of Universities on Disability, AUCD. The Lunch and Learn is part of the Rehabilitation Research and Training Center on Employment Policy and Measurement, which is funded by the National Institute on Disability, Independent Living and Rehabilitation Research, also known as NIDLR. We're going to follow the same format. Part one, we're going to go through the data. Part two, Denise is going to talk about the news. And we're very pleased to have guest speakers, Joey Travolta and Abel Costello, or Castillo. I didn't hear your name said. They'll be talking about inclusion films. We'll have Q&A as always at the end. And I hope we have a great dialogue. So let's get to the numbers. John, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Good day, everybody. I'm John O'Neill from the Kessler Foundation, and this is the monthly nTIDE report. As Andrew had mentioned, we're going to be presenting the numbers from our press release and infographic that looks at the latest employment statistics. The data is from the jobs report, which is released by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, usually on the first Friday of each month, but sometimes they release them on the second Friday, and that happened in March. This is a joint effort between the Kessler Foundation and the University of New Hampshire. Next slide, please, Andrew. The data source is the BLS's current population survey, which is the source of the official unemployment rate, which the press makes so much of. And the data is generated on civilians, all those who are 16 through 64, not living in institutions. This information has been available since 2008 onward, and this was the year that the Census Bureau added the 6 disability questions to the various federal censuses. The data is not seasonally adjusted as yet, and which is why we compare the data to the same month in the last year. Andrew, I think I turn it over to you at this point to present the numbers.
Okay, great. I gave away the numbers too fast. Thank you, John. So this month was a relatively slow month, not much change. The employment to population ratio, so the percentage of people with disabilities that are working, that are employed, it went a little bit down from 30.5 to 30%. from last year, February last year. The people without disabilities, the blue, it went up a little bit from 73.5 to 74.1. And so this is kind of consistent with what we've seen. I'll go over the time trend in a minute. This is kind of a slowing off period, it seems. We also looked at the labor force participation rate. So this is not just people who are working, but also includes people that are looking for work. And this went down slightly, even a little more slightly than the other one. So actually, people with disabilities are, it actually shows that people with disabilities are actually looking for work a little bit more than they're losing work. But it went down from 33.6% to 33.3%, so right on that 1/3 mark. For people without disabilities, it went slightly up from 76.8 to 77.1 from February to February. And so, you know, we really see this as kind of, you know, a no result, you know, and no big changes. Now let's go back to the percentage employed. So the employment to population ratio. So as John said, this data goes back to 2008 when they first started collecting these data, which historically was related to a one of the last executive orders that Bill Clinton made to ask the Bureau of Labor Statistics to collect employment data for people with disabilities. It took them several years to get the survey questions in place. And so what you see is you kind of see the fall from the Great Recession. So the Great Recession was in 2008, and you can see that fall. You see the fall for both people with and without disabilities. For people with disabilities, you see a slow rise. So from 2010 on, you see this slow march upward, right? And you really don't see a big pickup in the last few years with the new administration. You know, this really is the slow recovery of the employment of all people in the economy. For people with disabilities, it seemed too slow. You know, that it went down and then kind of stayed relatively low. There was no kind of rebound or recovery. And then in 2006 and 2017, we start seeing a march upward. And we're now seeing a bit of kind of leveling off so far. There's quite a bit of fluctuation in the last few months. And we're kind of just seeing a little bit of a slowdown in this recovery that we were seeing. And so if I snap a trend line in, you can actually see just the way that I snapped it in, it looks like it might be starting to decline. For people without disabilities, it's continuing a slow upward trend. And so people have asked, so why did this occur? Probably the biggest thing that I'm investigating, I'm actually looking at data that can actually go back to the 60s, is that this is one of the few times we've ever seen the percentage of people with disabilities rise this last few years. And it may have been due to full employment. So the economy is so, the labor market is so tight that people are getting jobs, and people with disabilities are encouraged to go start looking for jobs. However, that might not last very long as people with disabilities come out of the labor market, either find jobs or don't find jobs. It might be just a limited time offer, so to speak. And also, if you look at the news today in the overall economy, there's definitely been some slowing in the number of jobs added, and there's all kinds of thoughts about why that might have been. So these are the numbers we have. I'll be happy to answer questions at the end of the webinar, but I'm going to turn it over quickly to Denise. Denise, take it away.
Terrific. Thanks, Andrew. Okay, let's flip to the first slide. As all of you know who have listened before, I generally do a quick federal policy update of anything that is pertinent to what we talk about on employment. Interestingly enough, there's very little to tell you today. So, so here's the quick stuff. One, we have been talking about money follows the person, which, as you recall, was extended at the end of the last Congress, but only extended for like a 3-month period. I mean, it was really short, basically just to keep the program going. And it was snuck in at the very end as part of the omnibus. So The Empower Care Act, which is the extension of Money Follows the Person, has been introduced again. There are the numbers, Senate Bill 548 and House Bill 1342. And this would extend it through 2023. The disability community has been doing a series of call-in days and asking people to co-sponsor and trying to highlight Money Follows the Person in the last week or two maybe. So that's of great importance. And again, continuing it, since it was such a short continuation from the end of the last Congress into this one, we really need to get it moving again. So Money Follows continues. Other stuff is only on here to highlight it for you. You've heard about it from me in past months. I don't have updates. Higher Education Act, we still think is going to be reauthorized this year, but there are negotiations going on in the House and the Senate. If there are things that you're interested in the Higher Ed Act, around apprenticeships or the TIPSID programs, the inclusive post-secondary programs for students with intellectual disabilities, around transition age youth, around any of those things, now's the time to reach out to your members and let them know you're interested. But they are in negotiation mode. We don't have anything introduced at this point. And then I talked to you briefly last time about these two pieces of employment legislation. Nothing has happened on them yet. One is on competitive integrated employment. One is raise the wage, and there are the numbers for that. The other is transformation to competitive integrated employment. They both impact the 14C program. One of them ends it immediately. One of them extends, kind of grandfathers transformation to competitive employment. The second bill listed there also provides some funding for providers and states to try to shut down their sheltered workshops, stop using 14C, et cetera. Again, no action particularly, but if you want to look for the bills that are happening right now on employment, those are the two main ones. And then lastly, I will say that the president's budget is due out shortly. I just got an email this morning about the briefings that happen when it comes out on the Hill and on the briefings that happen at the agencies. So it is coming. We will have more information then. Given that there is less discretionary money this year, again, based primarily on the fact that the Treasury is taking in less money, so there is less money for discretionary programs. We'll have to wait and see where those cuts are applied. Don't know yet, but keep an eye out. Okay, next slide. On other stuff that we've got going on, Andrew.
I'm trying.
Okay, I'll look at it from here. There are some things that are coming up. I have a couple things on rural issues, and I thought both of these popped up. I thought they were both really interesting. This is a new resource page. It's got all kinds of things listed on it. It's on Workforce GPS, which, as you remember, I've started referencing more. It's the web page that has the information for the American Job Centers, basically. So it's not disability specific, but much broader than that. But obviously, the American Job Centers are supposed to include folks with disabilities and disability specific information. So there's a new page, a new resource page on rural issues, particularly kind of successful practices, programs, services. There's some stuff up there, a link to the RRTC on disability in rural communities at the University of Montana. So there's also some disability stuff up there. I would think, they say they're going to continue to add links. So I would say to people on this call a couple of things. There's great information up there on disability, obviously, because of the RRTC, but also on other things, homelessness, career and tech ed, poverty, all of those things. And I would also say for those of you who have things, who have materials that relate to rural issues for people with disabilities, it is never a bad idea to shoot those off to those people. They're going to be adding resources, so why not yours? So that's the first one. Second one, Andrew, next slide. The second rural thing I've got, this is on mental health in rural communities. And it's a new toolkit from University of Minnesota Rural Health Resource Center. And it's got all kinds of stuff focusing specifically on adult mental health, which I thought we don't talk about that enough, and there's never enough work being done in that arena. But it's looking at evidence-based and promising models on that with programs and implementation examples, evaluation, sustainability, all those things. And it's a toolkit I thought looked really interesting for those of you who are looking at it. Again, this is another one where I would say you know what, if you have disability specific, if you have some resources that fit into this, it's never a bad idea to shoot them along. But we all know that mental health issues in rural communities are tough. So, and there's never enough programs, and and distance is a problem, and all of those things that we all know. So I thought this one was a really nice find this month. Next slide, Andrew. Some transition stuff. This is cool. There's a comic. So the NIDE funded Pathways RRTC, and it's also funded by SAMHSA, has, again, this is mental health related. For young adults with serious mental health conditions, there are comics. And I went and looked at one. They're very cool. So there are 3 of them up there so far. Fist 3, that should be first.
You're making me want to click on the link.
The link is there. You can click. They're cool. They surround James and his dog Jarvis, are the key characters in it. And there are 3 scenarios around natural supports, challenging activities, kinds of stuff. But I thought they were very cool. And then the second one from Pathways is a transition training videos. And again, there are several of them. I think there are 3 of them out now, 5 to 7 minutes short. This one is young adults with mental health care needs. And again, it's that same population. Discussion questions, resources, things that go with it. Again, very usable, user-friendly, discussion questions. I thought they were a nice tie-in to the mental health stuff I mentioned a minute ago, but also, we've talked a lot in the Promise people, in the Promise grant that I help run the TA Center for. We talk a lot about you don't reach transition age youth and teens and young adults in the same way that you reach adults. This is how you reach young adults. And I thought it was great that they were doing it. Okay, next one. Okay, there you go. Emergency planning toolkit. This is one that's a little bit more tangential to the employment work that most of you do. But on the other hand, you all know, depending on where you live, that folks with disabilities are often either the first ones or the last ones, depending on how you want to look at that, left out of the process of emergency planning. And if we included them in the process earlier, we could actually have better success. So this is a capacity building toolkit. I particularly like the fact that it was from NACO, the National Association of County and City Health Officials, and the state and territorial health officials in partnership with ACL, so here in DC. So I think it talks about increasing planning and resources. How do you do that? How do you get people involved? How do you deal in various situations, whether it's the planning, the response, the recovery, the mitigation activities. A nice one. So that was another pull this month that I found. Next, Andrew. This one's an international one. I haven't shared an international one with you all lately. This is about disability inclusion in Africa, particularly the African Union policies, since many of those countries have signed on to CRPD, the UN Convention on People with Disabilities. This is the rights of people with disabilities. They looked at that ratification and then juxtaposed it to the policy principles and policies that actually happen in those countries. And very interesting. I'm looking at it to see, is this genuine inclusion or is this tokenism that's happening? That was their word, tokenism. And I thought this was an interesting one. And I really, particularly since we heard in January from the Fellows Program here at AUCD on inclusive employment, I thought it was interesting to bring in the study as well. Next one. Measure once, twice, cut once. Mathematica has a series of 3 briefs just came out on using various types of RSA data or VR data to evaluate pre-ETS services. I say to you guys all the time, I'm not the policy geek. I'm the policy geek. I'm not the research geek or the numbers geek, but these look really interesting to me. And they're by Todd Honeycutt and Purvi Sivak, who we all know. And it's using different types of data. Okay, next one, Andrew. I think I'm about there, right? Yeah. Transition challenges for Hispanic youth. This was another one NIDE funded. Interviewing, and again, since we had the Promise person, Ellie from Hartman from Wisconsin talk last year about it. What do caregivers and again, that's their word, I'm not sure I would have used that, but caregivers of transition age Hispanic youth. And what do they say in interviews about the issues and the challenges that are being faced by the youth, by their youth? And then what are the strategies that they are using to help combat that? And then I think, Andrew, the last one, I want to make sure I get to Joey. Yeah, one more webinar to talk to you about. This is from the RTC on VR and youth. Rich Luking, our friends at the University of Maryland, are doing this on March 19th. And it's specifically, again, on pre-ETS. I have more conversations with people about pre-employment transition services than I think I do about anything else. And the way they are working, aren't working, who likes them, who doesn't like them, how you measure them, how you don't, what are the experiences on, and are they working the same way all over the country? I'll tell you the answer to that's no. So I have more conversations about that than about anything, I think. And this is a webinar looking at VR counselor experiences and lessons learned from the field, creative ways to address some of the issues that are out there, outreach, resources. I thought this was another really good one for something that is, as I say, can be tough. And there are just lots of conversations going on right now about it. So I'm going to sign on to this one and listen in. And I commend it to you all. Okay, next slide. Yep, so our guest speaker, I am thrilled to be the one who gets to introduce Joey today. Joey Travolta was born into a show business family, began his career as a performer in 1978 as a recording artist and an actor. He's directed over 20 films. In 2005, Joey produced the documentary, Normal People Scare Me, while mentoring a 15-year-old boy with autism who directed the film. Inspired by that, Joey developed a curriculum for inclusion films, which is what he's going to talk about today, a program that served hundreds of aspiring filmmakers. And also you should know that before making it on the big screen, Joey worked as a special ed teacher in New Jersey. So he gets this topic and has clearly done a lot of work on it. So Joey, I'm passing it to you.
Okay, thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Oh, you can hear me. Okay, great. And is this the camera I'm looking into? Right
No,
there?
I think you're looking slightly to your left.
Okay. All right, because at first I thought this was an intervention for my technical challenges. But now I know that I'm speaking because I can see it on the screen. Anyway, Inclusion Films is a practical film workshop that trains adults with developmental and intellectual disabilities in the field of filmmaking. We started in 2007, and I'm very, very excited about the things that are happening now because it took years to break down the doors. So basically at Inclusion Films, we develop a short film, 30 minutes usually in length, and we use that as the lesson plan. During that course of time, they learn camera, they learn writing, they learn editing, they learn everything that goes into filmmaking for the first 10 weeks. And then the last 10 weeks, we actually make a film and apply everything that they've learned. And this is repeated each semester. We also have a production company that I run. And in that production company, we do documentaries, we do short films, we do promotional videos, we do PSAs, we do commercials, and that's like the minor leagues. And I say that like the minor leagues of baseball. It's professional, but our folks, they can learn their craft while we are in production, and they get paid and they get that experience. I also run filmmaking camps all over the country, and over the last, probably since 2012, I always take at least 5 or 6 of our students on the road with us. They get paid, they learn their craft, and they stay in hotels, they get per diem, they get to manage their money. So it's those soft skills that you learn through filmmaking. Because the thing that was great, when my first film that I ever starred in was a movie called Sunnyside in '78. And I got on the set and I learned all of filmmaking by having a bird's eye view of what everybody did. And because I was starring in the movie, I was on the set every day. I wanted to know what the camera guy did. I wanted to know what the grip did. I wanted to know what electric. There was food involved. Everything that goes into everyday life goes into filmmaking. And what the skill that excited me most is how everybody became a family. And you became a part of something. And it was a learning experience at that time, because I learned everything that I learned from being on the set as an actor. And I said, this is what I want to do. So I learned it from being there. And my thought was, when I started directing many years later, my idea was always to have a group of young folks that, when I start the film, from the very beginning of breaking the script down, budgeting and scheduling, I take a group of people through the process. And this wasn't directed at special needs people at that time. I was doing films and getting graduates from some of the top film colleges, and I was getting them on the set, and they didn't know their way around the set. They didn't have that practical experience. So I thought it would be cool if we could do this. So after we did Normal People Scare Me, and I mentored the young man that directed the film, I started getting calls to do camps. And the camps are like a smaller version of the workshop. They're 2-week camps. We've done them in 10 different cities. And it's the process of making the film where the education takes place. And the dream was to someday make a feature film where most of the people that I train work on that film. And that just came true. We just wrapped on Friday night. We finished Carol of the Bells, and it's our first feature film. And we were able to employ 25 adults with different disabilities or different abilities that have been through the program. And it was the dream that I had. It's one thing making a short film, but to make a full-length feature and be able to pay everybody and to get them that experience. They get the experience when we do the short films, but when you're making a bigger film that has, name talent in it, and you're taken through that whole process. And my guys, I can't tell you how proud I am of all of the people that worked on that film. And we are going to open the Bentonville Film Festival. So on the employment side, it's taken a while. I mean, it's taken a while to break down the doors. And I think the breaking down of doors is seeing, when we do a production, that half the crew, more than half the crew, has a different ability, and the content works. The content, you're getting professional quality content, but the great thing is all that money goes back to employment and gives our folks these opportunities. And I spend 200 days a year on the road between the camps and the workshops. We now have 7 different facilities. I have partners, Community Options, Futures Films. Each of them have 3 facilities. And then I have my main facility in Bakersfield. And you're going to meet one of our students from the program that has worked on several films this year, and is I think he's eligible to join the union, that's groundbreaking. And making this feature is groundbreaking. And I think I'm right at the point. Is this around the time that we show the video, 10 minutes in?
It depends. Let's go through the slides.
Okay.
And tell me which slide you want me to be on. Do you want to do the video now?
Oh, okay. Well, this is one of our screenings. One of the things when we do the summer camps, we go off and cut them. Let me go back by saying, at Inclusion Films, half of our staff has a developmental disability, or a different ability, as I like to say. So when we do these camps, we bring them back to Bakersfield, edit them, everybody works together, and then we have big red carpet screenings. And the picture you see is one of the screenings that we had. I think that was at St. Mary's, the college that were the camp we did at that college. And the families get to see the outcome from it is the film that we made. And so we have red carpet screenings for all the films that we make. I would say 7 to 8 of our campers from around the country have attended the filmmaking. More than that, have attended Inclusion Films filmmaking program and have gone on to work. And Abel is one of them. But if you want to show, let's take a look at that clip, and then we'll bring Abel in and open it up for questions.
Okay, let's, this clip here.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, here we go.
Roll sound.
Sound speed.
Roll camera. Camera speed.
Hi, I'm Joey Travolta, founder of Inclusion Films, a practical film workshop that takes adults with developmental and intellectual disabilities through the whole process of making a film.
Sound speed.
Here I am, John Travolta, on the set of The Poison Rose, and I would like you to witness right here this group of fine young people become professionals.
Action.
At the workshop, I learned how a set like this works. It also helped me cope with the amount of movement and action that needs to be done on a moment's notice.
Jeff and I were from the same facility in Bakersfield. One thing that the workshop has taught me, patience. That's one skill set I definitely use.
I've been a PA on short films at the film workshop, so I kind of had to bring those type of skills and type of ability.
So I get a chance to learn the lingo beforehand so I wouldn't be as confused.
For me, I like to be on set by doing car services.
We're so thrilled to be helping to bring these wonderful young adults to the movie business.
It's been really fun. There's been moments where I've had to kind of learn things on the fly.
This is a big special effects stunt that's going to happen. It was something that I was able to help set up. It was actually quite fun.
Getting a chance to see one of the takes being filmed live and get to see the filmmaking process from, a new point of view.
I've always wanted to be on an actual film set. I get to meet new people, get to work with new people. This is actually the biggest step for my next movement.
This group of people can work on any movie set. I don't care whether it's this set, a Spielberg set, a John Woo movie, it doesn't matter. They will deliver exactly what is needed and what is wanted. This is the future.
I would like to say to the production team, thank you very much.
Taking a chance and hiring me and the other kids from the program.
I want everybody here.
So I hope I get to work with you guys in the future.
Please hire me again.
Roll sound.
Okay. Okay, am I back on, or is...
Yep, you're back on.
Okay, so that was a big feature film shot in Georgia. The producers were really good friends of mine, and it just happened to be starring my brother. And when my brother saw our guys work, when he does a film, they're going to hire more people because they knocked it out of the ballpark. Very, very proud of them. And Abel, I know, is about to join the union, and one of the other folks on the shoot is very close to being eligible to join the union as well. But I'm very proud of Abel. Abel just finished doing second camera on our feature, and I'm going to let Abel talk a little bit, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Hello, everybody. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. The working these two sorry about that. Working on the set of Poison Rose was definitely it was an experience. I learned so much from there. I learned, like I said in the video, patience is one thing that I definitely learned on set, and that I have learned from inclusion because being on a movie set, it's very fast paced, and and definitely Care of the Bells was a very fast-paced movie. You know, when I worked Poison Rose and this and another movie that I recently did before Carol of the Bells, those were all like within, you know, a month or so roughly, and we had to shoot Carol of the Bells in 2 weeks, and that was definitely much more fast-paced. So patience is something that I said in that video that has helped me, and it's something that I'm still going to say. You know, patience is something you very much need on a movie set. What else can I say? When it comes to inclusion, I first got there, I want to say roughly around 3 years ago. It was somewhere around there, and I've learned so much in those 3 years. I've learned everything that Joey mentioned that inclusion does. I've learned everything in camera, which is one of my favorite aspects of the camera department, which is something that's it's definitely my favorite department. I've learned how to edit. I've improved on my writing. I was always a bit of a writer, but I've definitely improved on it, and I definitely have a newfound respect for it because of inclusion. And I learned a little bit of all that grips and electric and all that stuff. So,
yeah.
So these 3 years have definitely been these past 3 years have been a whole lot happened for me, much more than I honestly would have. A lot more has happened in my life in these 3 years than I thought would ever happen for me.
So what kind of things are you working on next?
Next, I would definitely, one thing that I've been finding a newfound interest in is directing. And it's something that, you know, now that I've seen all the departments at work, it's something that I want to definitely improve upon my directing. So I guess that's the next thing I kind of want to work on.
Yeah. Great. All right, Joey, do you have any questions or comments or thoughts?
I think it's real important that you know, he also is able to live on his own, have his own apartment, and we hate to see him leave the program, but he could work anywhere, anytime, and so many of the people that have already hired him, including me, because I was the producer and director on Carol of the Bells, and I have no problem, you know, recommending him to anybody. And all the people that have worked with him said this guy is a rock star. And when you hear that, that means we're doing our job at Inclusion Films. And Dale Oprandy, who runs the program, teaches them more than just those skills. He teaches life skills and social skills and being a part of the family. And I hope that Abel has that feeling that he is a part of something bigger than filmmaking and transfers that into everyday life and everything that he does. And I'm just really proud of him. And I'm proud of what we did with Carol of the Bells in just 12 days. And you're going to be hearing a lot about that as well. But if anybody else has any questions for Abel.
Okay, so why don't we move into the question and answer period. And folks who are linked in on the phone can ask questions. So Denise and John. Also, people can ask questions through the Q&A box on Zoom, and I'll read those out, and we can answer those. So folks can ask questions through the Q&A box.
I have one question before.
Sure.
How's my hair look?
Well, you're cropped off at the top, so it looks great.
Oh, so people. Oh, am I really? Oh,
now a little when you lean in, your hair looks great.
Okay.
What we can see. So also one thing to we have one question that came in from Lynn Weintraub. Why is the film called Normal People scared me.
Oh, no, the documentary?
Yeah,
Well,
why? Where did it get
because
its name?
at that time, normal people scared him. And he came up with the name of the documentary. So when we did that, my daughter, Rachel, had a film festival. And there was an article. She asked me to help her out. And I said, okay, I'll help you out. I'll get you some publicity. I had my production company. I was doing a thing called Entertainment Experience, which was teaching neurotypical kids, not that it was called that, filmmaking camps and things like that. And I sponsored it. And in the article, it mentioned that I was a former special ed teacher. So 2 parents with children with autism approached me and said, what I consider opening acting classes and camps to kids with special needs. I said, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the other mother said, hey, my son wants to make a film. Can he submit it to the film festival? This is Chaminade High School. I said, absolutely. Give me the film. Let me take a look at it. And she said, well, he doesn't know how to make a film. I said, well, that's a problem. So I met him. And after meeting him, he wanted to make a film about what it was like to be autistic from an autistic kid's point of view. And this is back in 2003, 2004. So I decided that, all right, I will give you a cameraman. I will give you an editor. You have to conduct the interviews. You have to find the subjects, and then I will mentor you. And his title was Normal People Scare Me. And that's how that all came about. That's the reason, because normal people do scare him. They scare me too sometimes.
We have a few more questions that came in from around the call. I'm going to ask one before too long. Where can the films be seen? Are they at various distribution outlets or online?
Well, actually, we formed Inclusion Networks last year, and it's a subscription-based company called Inclusion Networks, and people subscribe, and the money goes back into employment. And it's films from San Diego, San Bernardino, Bakersfield, Livermore, Sacramento. It's the content that we've made, and we roll out new films every 2 weeks. A new film comes out. But the feature, Carol of the Bells, is going to premiere at the Bentonville Film Festival in May. I think it's May 7th it's going to premiere. And that will be, we've got a lot of interest from distributors, and hopefully it'll be on one of the networks come Christmas time. We may even do a small theatrical with it. And RJ Mitty is our one of our stars of the film from Breaking Bad. Yeah.
Someone asked, I may have missed it, but what are the requirements to get into inclusion films?
Well, we are funded through regional centers in California. So if you are I don't know, what do you call it, member or client of regional center, you are eligible for the program. It's all funded through the state. Outside, we've had people come in from out of state. As a matter of fact, there's a young man, we do a camp in Bentonville, Arkansas. We are associated with the Bentonville Film Festival, and through Department of Rehab, Vocational Rehab in Arkansas, we do a camp the week before, and one of the young men applied for a scholarship. He wanted to come to Inclusion Films in California, and John's Crazy Socks, it's a business that you might have heard of, offered a scholarship, and he won it. And it was kind of cool. He's going to be coming, so you can pay privately outside.
Sure.
The state, but it's funded through the state of California.
Okay, great. Also, someone asked, where can we get information on upcoming films, workshops, camps, and stuff like that?
And if you go to our website, inclusionfilms.com, the new camps are going to be posted in the next 2 days. And they usually have updates on information. Yeah.
So this is another question. How would an individual from Maryland or the District of Columbia apply for the vocational film workshops? Are there any stipends? What are the costs?
The costs are it varies, and each place it's around, and I don't quote me on this, but I think it's around 11,000 for a 5 months, 20 weeks.
Right. Okay.
You know, and then you obviously, if you're coming in from out of state, you're going to have other costs, you know, housing and such. But most of our clients are local, like Bakersfield, it's Kern County, but people, if you're coming from another one into it, they will, other regional centers will. It's a courtesy vendorship. But anyway, I'm mainly handle all the production and the employment and stuff like that, but they can call Inclusion Films Direct to get more information.
Great. This question comes from Derek Shields. How does Inclusion Films help young people create their career vision and then learn to network and support their career objectives? And Abel, you might be able to chime in on this one.
Okay. The way Inclusion Films helps young people create their career vision and learn to network. Inclusion is the way it's worked for me is that, you know, at least here in Bakersfield, the teachers are very, you know, hands-on. They really get to know, you know, the students, and they see what their strengths are and they improve on their strengths. You know, some people are gonna probably be more interested in the camera department. Some are more interested in perhaps the editing department. And we have teachers for almost every department, and they tend to work with those students that are really interested in the department quite a lot. And as far as the learning to network, and support the career objectives, if you show if the students show not only just a great interest, but also, you know, when we start doing, you know, our short films and stuff like that, if the teachers see that they're really striving in their departments, they send them out like on, for example, me on movie sets, and some students here work on the summer camps, as Joey's mentioned.
Yeah, again, getting back to, we have our own production company, and it's, you know, and the production company does the camps. You know, we do 5-6 camps a year, and that's always a couple of weeks of employment opportunities. This summer, there'll be 11 weeks of opportunities for our folks to work. But we also have the promotional videos. We're working for Lights, Camera, Access. We're doing 3 jobs for them in the next month and a half. We've done stuff for the state of Arkansas, where I took 3 of our folks on the road and for a week and did a bunch of shooting. And again, they're always paid situations, and it gives them an opportunity to cut their teeth, so to speak. And if it's a mistake to be made, you know, it's under my tutelage, so they can learn from that, and then it makes them ready. We're just asking for opportunities. We're creating opportunities, but we're also asking, just get their foot in the door. Abel got his foot in his door, and he's ready to join the union. The same with Jeff, who was in the video as well. And you know, we've been getting a lot of the films are starting to open up their production to our folks, and that's all we ask. And obviously, Hollywood is the mecca for filmmaking, so we're tapping into that now. And that door took a long time opening, but it's slowly opening, and we're creating those situations. And I'm very excited about the potential.
Have you ever had a reunion of past past people's? Because part of building a network is keeping it rolling.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our folks that have been in the program are working at other programs now. So the model is when we open a program, we'll always leave a couple of jobs open at the actual workshop. So people that have been through the program now work for me at different locations, and in the post-production. Post-production and camera seem to be the areas that there's a lot more work.
Sure.
And now with all the new networks and the Netflixes and the Hulu and all there's more job opportunities. And I'm not going to say if, but when Carol of the Bells is done and completed and monetized, it's going to open up the doors for us to be doing 4 or 5 films a year.
Yeah, monetization of those kind of opportunities is expanded.
And this is why it's important for the inclusion networks, because we're showing the work, but we're monetizing the content. And it just goes back into employment and intern opportunities, paid intern opportunities. Yeah. So I'm excited about the possibilities. And the nice thing is when you do things like this, who knows? Someone may say, hey, we need a promotional video. Can you do it? We need a commercial done, a PSA done. And this is what we do. And every one of the workshops has their own production unit that goes out and does jobs. So, so I'm pretty excited about it.
Very good. Someone asked, can you repeat the information on the new movie with RJ Mitty?
Yeah, it's called Carol of the Bells.
Yeah. And where will it be shown?
Well, it's going to debut at the Bentonville Film Festival in May. And Bentonville Film Festival is a Walmart and Coca-Cola sponsored event. And the actress Gina Davis is the host of it. And again, a sample. 4 years ago, I was doing a keynote job in Arkansas, and I brought several of the students with me to speak. And one of them said, hey, there's a film festival here. This would be perfect for inclusion films. And, everybody talks about that. And I said, well, you can tell them that we do this and blah, blah, blah. So from that, we've now done, this will be the 3rd camp we've done. They've hired us. They were mainly a women's film festival, mainly women filmmakers. And then 3 years ago, they started inclusion and diversity. And that's when we stepped in. They hired us to do a job. And we do the camp the week before. And then we're there at the festival working. And now we have 2 premieres. We have our camp premiere and Carol of the Bells premiere. And Cox Communications, our sponsor there. And it's just all coming together. It's very exciting. It's very exciting. Did I answer the question?
Yes, you did.
I go off into tangents sometimes.
That's okay. Another person asked, will there be another, Victoria Giorgio's said, will there be another camp in New Jersey next year? Website says there was one in 2018.
Yes. As a matter of fact, this will be the 10th year. Again, I'm going to be posting those, the camp dates probably later today. But we are doing one in New Jersey, and it's at the very end of July, first week in August.
Where in New Jersey will that be?
It's in Tenafly, New Jersey, at Mount, oh God, I can't remember the name of the church. But it's in Marble Jam Kids.
Mount Carmel
is the host. Marble Jam Kids.
Yeah, great. And so, Abel, what's your next steps in terms of jobs? How are you looking for jobs, and how are you looking to be hired?
Well, at the current moment, I'm working at the Fox Theater here in Bakersfield. Just working, a couple of shows, helping clean up at the moment. That's at the moment.
Yeah.
As far as networking goes, I do have a. I have a. I'm very close friends with someone whose mother is in who's also in the business as well, and we're definitely doing. We're writing a little something.
Oh, good.
So
and Abel is still in the program.
Yes, I'm also still in the program. Yes.
Great. Yeah. Well, I'm an economist, and most research shows that about 60 to 70% of all jobs are found through networks, not through the job ads or applying for a job in the formal setting. And so keeping those networks active and building them, it's been, it sounds like a great story about, inclusion films and inclusion networks just kind of building and building and building. And I think it shows the real value of inclusion as a concept, being in a small kind of factory setting where people are sheltered in a specific place kind of hides that potential of building that network over time. So
yeah, and it is. And again, each job that we do, so the model for our film was we had a pro in the key position, and then the next 2 to 3 positions were students of ours. And those pros now will hire them on the next gig they do.
Yeah.
And that's where it all starts. The same with the art department. They're going to get hired because they showed that they can do it. And I think when people see what we did in 12 days with a crew of 70% of our folks working and getting paid and creating a content of value, that's going to be our calling card.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Great. Any further comments? We're coming up towards our end. If there are any further questions or comments that people have, do you have any final thoughts or anything, Abel and Joseph and Joey?
I'll let Abel go first.
Any final thoughts? Well, I've said it plenty of times before, and I guess there isn't enough times that I can say this. Not only to you, Joey, not only today, but to all of inclusion. I never would have thought that I'd be where I am today if it wasn't for inclusion. So I can't say this enough. Thank you, Joey. So
you got it, and I'm going to give you $100 for that promotion.
Plug, yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
We don't discuss this in polite company, Dale. Joey. We don't discuss this in public.
All right.
You slip it secretly.
Yeah. Okay. That was a joke, by the way. It's hard to tell because I don't have any feedback. So I just want to say to all the parents out there, that have folks, young family with disabilities, there's just a lot of hope. The doors, they're opening. We just have to get more opportunities for, and I think everybody has a gift, and it's finding what that gift is. Abel's gift was camera, and so we worked on that. But everybody has a gift, and we just have to find the gifts and find the opportunity for it.
Yeah, that sounds great. It is hard to know how many people are out there. Right now, there are 61 people listening online through the platform, but there's also, this is live streaming on Facebook Live, and we get a lot more people, and it's also archived. So that kind of note to families and to the broader community, you never know who's going to see these kinds of things and how they're going to propagate and build. So we really appreciate you guys being on the show. And if anybody has any questions for Joey and Abel or all the others that were on the call, feel free to contact us here at the University of New Hampshire. Our contact information is there on the screen now. And again, I can't thank you enough, Joey and Abel. And good luck to everybody. Give us a call or contact us if you need any more information. But that's it for this month, and we'll see you all next month, or at least some of you next month, in our monthly nTIDE. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a good afternoon and have a good weekend.